What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Vicktory Life Legacy Spotlight. I'm your host, Dwight Vick. Today, we have another special guest in the house. We have Dee Sanae, my friend, also a Virginia Tech alumni, and she's also the Virginia Tech Diversity and Inclusion Director for the DC Alumni Chapter. How you doing today, Dee?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me on your spotlight, Victory Life. I support you all the way. I got my shirt on.
Yes.
Legacy. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to have you. We're going to have a great conversation about your legacy and also some of the things you have planned for the DC chapter of Hokies. You've already done some great things, which we're going to talk about. But first, let's talk about more about who you are. I want people to know about your background and how you became a Hokie and just some of the things that you've experienced in your life that gave you the insight and passion to give back to your community, which is a lot what Hokies are known for, and that's UT Pronsom.
Yeah.
So let's talk about where you're from, like how you grew up and what part of Virginia or where you from.
I am a military brat, so I grew up everywhere. My dad happened to retire in the Blacksburg area, actually, and I don't really want to say I'm from Blacksburg, but so he retired there, and I ended up going to Virginia Tech. I was actually really young. I was 16 when I started, and I participated in Virginia Tech's Upward Bound program. I don't know if you know about that.
Oh my gosh, Upward Bound.
Yeah.
That is old school. Do they even still have Upward Bound?
You know what? I think they do. I'm not really certain about that, but I really wish that other students knew about it, because even when I'm speaking about it here, I'm in Arlington, Virginia right now. And I'm like, it was such a great program. And they have something that it's called something else. And I can't remember what it is, but yeah. And
Yeah, yeah.
rest in peace, Tom, the director of Upward Bound, passed away last year, I think.
Oh wow, I'm sorry
Yeah.
to hear that. Yeah. So you mentioned you grew up a military brat. Like, talk about some of the places you've been and where you traveled to, because I've always found that fascinating. I'm from Virginia. I'm from the Taiwan area. I visited quite a few states. A lot of that through sports, but I have not traveled as much as I would like because of my schedule and just because of the limitations of what I can and cannot do. But you've been a military brat. What are some other places you've been to?
Oh, nothing very exciting, I don't think. So, a lot of times the military towns or whatever you go to are rural, right? And they're not very much metropolitan. I was born in Tokyo, so my dad was still in the Air Force there, and so we lived in Tokyo. We lived in Okinawa, Kadena Air Force Base. When we came over here, we stopped in Juneau, Alaska. My father's family is from Virginia, so we went there for a little bit. I remember I lived in Grand Forks, North Dakota. Nobody knows that.
I did not know that.
Exactly, right? But I was like a kid, really small. I wasn't in school yet. Tampa, Florida. And shortly, I'm the baby. So I'm like the youngest, out of my family. I'm actually the only child between my parents because there were another marriage. But when he retired, I didn't really get to live as many places as other people. So from Tampa to Virginia, and then that's when he retired.
Okay. So
So
you mentioned your background living in Tokyo. You also have a different perspective culturally and your ethnicity. You are biracial, and you have a unique perspective from that standpoint. And you approach that when you do your work with Virginia Tech because you are working to unify alumni, make sure that other minority businesses and minorities are recognized. But talk about what it was like growing up, being biracial and, the perspective you have. I mean, because people assume that they know what it's like or they make comments, but, you have the unique perspective. Like a lot of friends I have, especially being from the Taiwan area, we have a strong military presence down there and I have quite a few biracial friends. Many of them are Virginia Tech alumni, being half Asian and half Black. But talk about your childhood and also even growing up, what you saw. Was it hard? Was it a unique perspective?
there's so many nuances, and that's a loaded question. It was certainly pretty hard. um, just navigating that. Like, people don't realize that I was born in the 70s, but like grew up in the 80s. And there's a dog right here, by the way.
It's okay. It's okay.
No, because we're all at home. But yeah. So like just being a military kid in general, right? Like not having um a solid group of friends because it's always a transitional life. That was super hard. But also some of the places in which, and I'm most fortunate that when my father moved, we like Tampa, right? Like that's not like a country town, right? Um, that I was fortunate to be around diversity, but like I wish I was able to have like normal relationships and to build upon that. But then, right when you form relationships, my father was stationed to another area, so I would say predominantly it was really hard in Virginia to get acclimated in the environment of like him retiring in an area like Blacksburg, and then you have like the other towns, Christiansburg, right, and Radford. They're
Yeah.
pretty small, and I would say that it's not very diverse at all. I mean, the diversity that I experienced the most in the area was obviously when I went to Virginia Tech.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so it was really hard. I was, you hear it a lot of times that you're the only person that's the minority in the whole school. And that was true for myself. And maybe I saw like a sprinkle of a couple of other students in different grades. Um, so it was definitely challenging. I wouldn't say fitting in, but like having a connection with someone that actually got, you know, me and my culture.
Mm.
So, yeah. And then moving forward to Virginia Tech, I was really young when I started. I was 16 years old, and
16?
I was 16. No, people don't realize that. And I don't really
I
actually.
didn't even know that.
Yeah, I was like the baby sister to a lot of people. Even so, now they call me Little Sis because I was like one of the youngest people that they had um, like met in my years. And,
Hold on, D.
some
Hold
of
on, D.
those folks.
Hold on, D. Hold on. You were 16 when you started to see, I was 17 my freshman year, but I turned 18 later that fall. You were 16
I was
in
such a
college?
baby, yeah, and I was just really trying to earn my stripes as being older.
How did that happen? Like, I know like at certain high schools they have IB programs, you get
Yeah,
college credits, you can
yeah.
graduate early with summer school. How did that
Um,
happen for you?
I wouldn't say like obviously just really studying hard and doing well and taking what they call AP courses back then, right? They didn't call
Hmm.
it IB; it was AP courses. Testing out of um, classes that you didn't have to take an exam, and then like getting that college credit. And I will say the biggest instrumental piece of that was Upward Bound, because while everybody was doing summer break, I was doing the Upward Bound program that they offered for the summer where you could go on to campus, right? And
Hmm.
but you're doing like your coursework for the next year. So I was like, that's how I kind of closed that gap.
Yeah.
I know. And I wish, that's why I'm saying it's such a phenomenal program. Um, and every other weekend, I can't even remember the structure, but I think it was like once a month and every other weekend, you could Upward Bound would then give you access to other teachers and like other students
Hmm.
around the area who was also participating in it. And you could work on your homework and get extra help. Isn't that awesome? Like, I think
Yeah.
it's so great. So that's really how yeah, I mean, you have to have the drive, right? And the hunger to succeed. But I didn't even realize the opportunity that I have through the program. And this is not an Upward Bound program, but I'm highly recommending. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, yeah. And before I knew it, when I went into tech at 96, it was sort of a new thing for early admission. And I read something in this like college book that I had because we were still prepping for the SATs and that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, and I said early admission, and I just like read this clause in a book, and I went to my guidance counselor, and I went to some like Upward Bound people, my guidance counselor like looks through my transcript and she's like, I think you could do this. And I was like, really?
Mm.
She's like, yeah, you've taken all these classes. And like I said, I had the opportunity to do like extra stuff through Upward Bound, and we did it. And I was offered conditional admission based upon the fact, actually, I'm lying. The only credit that I was lacking was biology. So I enrolled into, is it New River Community College down there?
New River
Yeah.
Valley Community College.
And so I took a biology course that summer because I was trying to meet the conditional admissions that I was given, and I had to pass it with the C or better, and I did. I passed it with the B plus, and
Hmm.
then I was on my way in August.
Wow. You mentioned Virginia Tech, and you finally ended up with your dad being a military guy in Southwest Virginia in Blacksburg.
Yes.
You know, I'm from Hampton, and we have ODU, Hampton University, William and Mary, and Norfolk State, and other colleges nearby, but especially in that region. Now, obviously, I was recruited heavily. I had a lot of options, but I know for me, it was important to not so much stay within state, but just get away from home.
Mhm.
It's 5 hours. You being, even though you moved around a lot, you traveled somewhat. Being in the military, your dad. At the end of the day, why did you decide to stay and go to Virginia Tech? Were you familiar with Virginia Tech at that time? Did you know anything about the traditions and different things that occur at the campus?
I did, because it was the Upward Bound program. Like when they did the summer program, I stayed. I can't remember the dorm that I stayed in, but like you live the life of a college student
Mm-hmm.
during this program, right? I had an RA. We had our classes um, as if we were going to, school, and we got to participate and learn a little bit about the campus. And so I knew a lot going into it, but the thing is, Virginia Tech wasn't the only consideration that I had. Um, I was looking at Northwestern. I mean, I was looking at a lot of schools actually. I was a baby, and so it was comfortable. And I knew more people through the Upward Bound program, right? And I was a little bit closer to home. I'm not going to lie. And I had already met some students that I had met through the Upward Bound program, when I was there in Squires.
Yeah,
So I felt like, oh, I already I already have this.
yeah.
Um, um, and actually, it was Aaron Foster was one of them.
Shout out to Aaron, my guy Aaron.
And yeah, I mean, so it was like Aaron, Tender, remember Tender?
Oh
Uh,
my gosh, yeah, yeah,
X,
yeah.
uh,
From Hampton, shout out to X, yeah.
yeah, Jay. They all lived together. I can't remember the
The
other roommate.
Fox Ridge crew.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And we had just, me and some girls had met them, and they were so like big brother, like that. That's what I felt. Dwight, I met you later, and I feel like the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and even when I came on the campus, I said, I'm coming to Tech, and they're like, Shorty, you're too young. And yeah, and I was like, no, I really am. And then when I showed up, they were like, oh, you weren't playing. And I said, yeah, no, here I am. But it was always love. It was always support. It was always the community at Tech, and people that I met after that was always like um, taking me under their wing. And I was a baby.
Mhm.
Um, so like, and I'm still friends with them to this day, and they still call me little sis, like I said.
Yeah, those were some great times, and I still remember all of that stuff. And I still remember meeting you, and I remember Fox. I lived in Fox Ridge too for a few years, and I liked living out there because it was further away from campus, so you almost felt like you were really on your own, like an adult. Because and plus, if only thing negative about that is nobody wanted to give you a ride to Fox Ridge if you couldn't
I
get
know.
out there because it wasn't nearby like Terrence View and all the other apartment complexes. And
And
you
nobody's
mentioned.
trying to wait for the BT, okay?
No, no, I know how many nights I was in that cold waiting for that BT. Yo, listen. But you talk about coming in '96. You came at a great time. I mean, you're talking about, to me, it was a great time for Virginia Tech sports, the culture, the campus was growing, the football team, the basketball team, and I did an interview recently. I know you saw it with the VT alumni with myself and Andre Davis and
Mhm.
Rashad Jenkins were
Yeah,
on.
it was a nice one.
And I talked about the family atmosphere and the fact that, even though you had 30 plus thousand students with the minorities like us, the blacks and the biracial students, there was a camaraderie. You mentioned it and how we looked out for each other, and also the unity we had. But let's talk about what were some of the other memories you had? Okay, because coming to campus at 16, you talked about people looking after you. You mentioned Aaron and other people, but talk about some of your other memories you remember. Because for some people, Dee, you and I had a great experience.
Mhm.
We're proud alumni, but some people couldn't handle the cold because
Oh,
those Blacksburg mountains hit you with a different kind of. You come outside, it was 50 degrees when you went in
yes.
class. You come out and it's 30 degrees and snowing, and they don't close classes or the campus just because it's snowing.
Mm-mm.
You have other people from other different places. It's a great university, but everyone's experience is different. But what
Yeah.
made your experience special besides the family atmosphere and the camaraderie? What are the other memories you have? Whether it's a dining hall or
Oh, Dietrich. Um, gosh, I'm drawing a blank because so I lived in the Upper Quad. Okay,
hmm
so what was that dining hall like nearby? I mean, it's not there anymore.
not Shanks. Was that it? I'm terrible with that. It's
No.
gone now. It's gone.
I know it's gone, and so is the dorm that I lived in.
You over there? We called that the hood.
I I sure was in the
We
hood.
called that the hood on
I know,
campus.
right? With military
Yeah.
dorms right across from Thomas.
Yes.
I was in
Yeah.
Monteith.
My tea. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was in Monteith. And yeah, I mean, what was special? It's crazy. Some of the girls that lived right beside me my freshman year and I met, we're still friends to this day. Moncello, April, and I don't know how we got connected, but it was like, we all like bond together and then we go over to somebody else's dorm and they would special moments were just like I really grew up there. I mean, let's just be honest. I really grew up there and people were like doing my hair in the dorm. And yeah, I just learned so much. And I will say this about being multiracial. I really was able to experience Black culture on campus through people because I didn't grow up in, predominantly African American culture in my,
hmm
where I lived. So that was really where I experienced step shows and just learned so many things. I'm trying. Yes, we could just go on step shows, Black Cultural Center, Squires. You know,
The parties at choirs.
yeah, DJ Kid Capri was there.
Yes, Kid Capri came, one of the best parties of all time.
I know, and
And I
just
couldn't go because of football. That's another legacy spotlight we'll talk
oh
about.
no,
We
yeah,
had to we had to stay in a hotel.
and that was the other thing. Like I'm sorry about that, by the way. um, it, it was that was the other thing. Like I remember meeting like the freshman football um, players and their life, like you said, is a little bit different, right? So they
Yeah.
are more scheduled and maintained. But being able to like hang out with them, I remember Chiron Stith and um, Manny, who I talk to all these people still, but um, yeah. So I mean, I don't know. There's just so much that I could attest to. I mean, just like getting involved with the Black organizations and just the access to the Black Cultural Center, Squires. I'm getting involved with, and I can't even remember what was there like a Black, not Black fraternity, but like a society. Do you remember this?
You asking the wrong one because I'll be honest with you, D. One of the biggest regrets I had, I had a great career at Tech, met some great people. I wasn't just an athlete, so I had friends that were engineers.
Right.
I could care less about sports, but because our time, my 5 years in Blacksburg, you had some fun. I had a lot of fun, but your time is limited. You're always traveling, training. you kind of exist in a bubble. So what I remember is more so just some of the some of the fun stuff, but there was things that you guys, other students, participated in we couldn't always go to. I
Right.
mean,
But it was for your own good. You had games to win and right?
well, again, I mean, I don't have any regrets. I met some great people who obviously didn't play sports, including yourself.
Mhm.
But when you hear about different stuff, like I remember Friday nights, calling my apartment to check in with my roommates, and they would be having spades games going on, getting ready to go downtown and going to Squire. So I think when I hear you talk now, I think I know for a fact, it's just a reminder that you and I both come from different parts of the state, different really parts, you traveled the country a little bit, but yet we had a great experience. I think that's what going to a school like Virginia Tech does is I actually coming from a place like Hampton and Newport News, I wanted diversity. I wanted to learn about different cultures and meet people. I mean, in my time at Tech, I met guys like Delish. You remember Delish? That used to throw the parties with Aaron. Well, he was there with Aaron,
Oh,
and he was from Africa, and I met other people.
maybe.
Yeah, and you
I'm
probably
sure I did.
yeah, and I mean, you meet people from all over, from Baltimore, from other parts of Africa, people of Jewish descent, and it's really cool
That's
because
me.
yeah, we'll
But
talk about that.
what? Let me say that for a second. I don't think that there were opportunities that I was exploring at Tech in Jewish life.
Mm,
I did a class in Judaic studies and I had an awesome and amazing professor that helped me explore more of that. But the things that I am tapped into now in my professional life, right? I'm like, oh, I wonder if I don't know if the things that the students have at Tech, period, for diversity and inclusion right now is amazing. Like, I don't even think, even though we were in our bubble and there were many things afforded to us, but now it's like I feel like we were at 6 and we didn't know it. And now it's on like DEFCON 10. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing. Um, but it's interesting. I met a couple of people from the Tidewater area. I never met anybody. I didn't even know what the Tidewater area was, but I was just like, wow. And it was interesting to hear some of my friends, and them too, tell me like I've never really interacted with a white person until I
oh
got
yeah,
to Tech. And I
yeah,
was like, really? Because
yeah. No,
I
that is
always
not.
thought
Yeah,
it was
that's
like
not
the
common.
minority, we were the few, and they're like, no, that was not my experience.
Nah, if you, we call it the 757. If you are so I grew up in Hampton and Newport News. So I mean, there are parts of Newport News and Hampton even now in 2020 where you you will not see someone other than a black person. And that's just there are places in Newport News and Hampton and Norfolk and in even Portsmouth where um, you won't ever see a white person and you won't even interact with them. And it's somewhat sad, but it is what it is. Some stuff is
Yeah,
generational.
yeah,
And that's why I said
absolutely.
for me, going to Virginia Tech for me was important. I grew up. My mother and dad are graduates of HBCUs. So
Mm,
my mom went to Hampton University. She got both her undergrad and her master's there. My dad went to Norfolk State and he got his master's from Virginia Union. And then he went on and just got his PhD last year from Liberty. And I remember
oh,
when he was at Liberty, he would call me and be like, I'm just amazed of what Liberty has. And
mhm.
even when I was being recruited by Florida and Notre Dame and UVA and Virginia Tech, when he went on visits with me, they were blown away because people in the Hampton Roads, the Tidewater area, 757, and even parts of Richmond, there are
Mhm.
people there. You come from families. Some of those families never leave their
Mm,
neighborhoods, never, except maybe to go to DC or go somewhere on a trip. But other than their childhood, their development, they don't leave the area. So the people you met, and I'm sure I know them, they're not exaggerating. And that's the part I think what you're doing now, and even what you've experienced, and what I experienced was crucial. I had a white roommate, and he's Derek Smith. He's one of my best friends. He's the assistant principal at Osborne Park. Played for the Washington football team for a few years before retiring due to injury. But
Is
he
it
was
weird
from
to like? Sorry, is it
yeah.
weird to
Yeah,
that name, by the way?
I'm okay with it. I think I'm doing pretty good. I slip up every now and then and say
No,
the
you
old
did
name.
really well. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, okay.
but I mean, Derek was from West Virginia, and he was my roommate, and we would teach each other stuff. That's
Yeah,
how we grew close because, I mean, he wasn't ignorant, but there was just stuff I'd be like, nah, we don't do that, man. He was like, why not? And then we would have conversations. I think that is an issue, and I say issue, that's an issue that I think a lot of us are afraid to address as we're growing up. And I think if you embrace the differences and talk about it, you can grow. And that's kind of what you experienced, right? When you went to
yeah.
tech, you talked about the Black culture, but also being of Jewish faith and, and
Well,
not having what they have now.
yeah, and it wasn't something I talked about. I didn't really talk about the Jewish um aspect like in college. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't the thing. It was like I was so fixated on experiencing the African American culture. It's
Hmm.
so rich, by the way. And I was just like, even just being exposed to it in upward bound. Like when I met other people from West Virginia, right? And I was like, oh my God, this is so great. And they introduced me to like the the electric slide. I know, right? Like you would just, but the way that they did it, you know how Black folk do it.
Yeah.
It was so much fun, and I was like, "This is so good." um,
Yeah.
but I will say this, and because I don't want to put like a damper on it, but some people at Tech, I also learned that some, of the community didn't fully accept me. They didn't even want to have anything to do with me because they um, didn't recognize me as black because I was biracial. So I had
Yeah.
that experience as well, and I was so hurt because I didn't really understand, but that's real life, right? That's real
Hmm.
life,
Hmm.
and yeah, and I just didn't really understand it, but I know why then, like no now, sorry, I know now why that happened, and it's listen, it was like a real life hard knock life, just
Hmm.
culturally, different people, different opinions, right? And like you said, we just learn from each other.
I think when I hear you say that, that does not surprise me because that's what I was referring to earlier in our interview in our discussion is that there are people that did not have the same experiences. I had friends and even a few teammates that decided to return back to their community because they weren't really comfortable being in a school at Virginia Tech where they were a big minority. Like, I mean, as far as
Mhm,
it
mhm,
wasn't that many of us,
mhm,
or it wasn't so much they dealt with racism, it was just more so overwhelming.
right.
And some people did not like being in a traditional college town where Southwest Virginia is the country. It is rural. You take out Virginia Tech and
There,
Roanoke,
oh,
it is it's basically a couple of gas stations, some
sorry,
dealerships.
that's
No,
really,
it's not a bad thing. It is what it is. I mean, the governor just spoke the other day about many hospitals in Southwest Virginia, just even before COVID really, really hit hard, the numbers went back up, were already at capacity. And that's just because,
yeah,
it's just not a lot there. And
yeah.
Virginia Tech has done tremendous amount of greatness for that area as far as businesses with the growth of the university,
I
because
mean,
that helped that area.
come on. When somebody says Blacksburg, they're meaning Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
Virginia Tech is Blacksburg. Blacksburg is Virginia Tech.
Yeah, but that non-acceptance you experienced, you weren't the only one, and that's the sad part because I'll be honest with you. I've said this: some people are not really ready or ever to embrace their differences or diversity. I
Mhm.
mean, it's all or nothing. It's not
Yeah.
about. I mean, because even within my community and my culture, you still even now in 2020 you have the debate over light skin versus black, dark skin,
Mhm.
or
Oh, that was the debate. Some
yeah,
people were like,
yeah,
"Oh, you think you're too cute because 'cause you're lighter," and I'm like, "What? What is
yeah,
this?" But colorism is real.
yeah. No, it is very real. And
So,
then you know, you have issues when people feel like, well, why do black men date outside their race? Or
oh, yeah.
that is going to continue to happen. I think what needs to happen is we need to value each other better,
Mhm.
and also respect our differences, and also understand that sometimes you may not understand a person's perspective till you hear them and listen to them.
Right.
That's how you understand. Okay, I get what you're saying. I'll tell you a quick story. You talk about Jewish faith.
Mm-hmm.
I've told this story more because I'm open to telling it now. But one of the best learning experiences I had at Virginia Tech was, I think it was either my junior or senior year. I was there 5 years because of football, but I was doing a group project for one of my sociology classes. And I asked a lady, well, young lady, I asked one of the ladies in my group, what was she going to do for spring break? And then we began discussion. And then I said, oh, what are you doing for Easter? And she sat back and she says, that's your holiday. I don't celebrate Easter. I was like, excuse me?
Oh,
Yeah. But she was probably offended. And she later explained
right.
that she kept being asked that and that she was of Jewish faith. And yeah. And she was,
Was she Black?
I no, but I don't think
Oh, oh, oh.
she wasn't Black. But what she explained to me was um, the reason why and what the Jewish faith believed. And she explained to me why it was an insulting question, but she didn't have a problem with me. She was just saying that at the end of the day, she was explaining, as you mentioned, your time at Virginia Tech, there are other cultures and religions. And that's the one thing I took away from that conversation. And she also provided me some education and some insight into her beliefs. And that's some of the stuff you've been doing with your podcast and your platform,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, in my professional life, yeah. Apart from the diversity and inclusion director position, that I have with the alumni chapter with the DC Hokies, I founded an organization earlier in the year, um, focusing on the Black, Indigenous, people of color community, as well as the Jews of color, or that's a term that is used, Black Jews, Brown Jews, and how there are issues in the Jewish community as well, just like any other community, right? Of celebrating, right? Like we talked about that. It's not. I want to like put a positive. Like we should be celebrating and embracing the diversity because we have so much to learn from each other, and it doesn't matter where you're from, right? It's like you said earlier. It's about listening and engaging, and you can learn so much by just listening. Somebody else come from a different background from you,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't mean that um, they are wrong. That's their truth. That's their experience, right? And yeah, so it came full circle. I mean, so some of the, it wasn't all like gold at Tech, right? But like overall, it was an amazing experience. And these are the connections that I made then that I still have now, and we're talking right now. Like you're one of them. So it's really nice to have that experience at Tech. And I don't know how it is on other campuses, but I'm going to say I think Virginia Tech's a special campus.
It is special.
Memories. Yeah.
And Dee, you mentioned, Black Jews and brown Jews. See, that's what I mean about growing and learning. I'm gonna tell you straight up. And when you're growing up in Hampton and Newport News, or you go across the water, we call it the South Side, and you're in Norfolk, or you walking around, even Virginia Beach, if you see somebody of color, you're not gonna think they're a brown or Black Jew. As a
Right.
matter of fact, I mean, it's not even about Christianity being or even Muslims being two of the more popular faiths. It's more so assuming because
Right.
you don't meet people that say, "Oh
Right.
yeah, by the way, I'm an African American Jew." I mean, you just so when
It's
you said that to me a few weeks ago, and you said it now in this interview, um, it's like what, like, and that's why it's good to educate because they correct me if I'm wrong. There are a lot of you out there, right?
a lot, a lot,
Yeah.
a lot, a lot. There's this representation, and what we refer to it as is Ashkenormativity, and Ashkenazi are white Jews or white passing Jews, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is portrayed in the media, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
all people ever see. So in America, you have this perception that this is what a Jew looks like. But unfortunately, there's been the lack of representation, right, of Ethiopian Jews, African Jews, Nigerian Jews, the tribe of Igbo. I can go on and on and on. And Jews are from Africa, by the way. So yeah, Jews from Africa, and even the ones that are Ashkenazi and white passing, they're from Africa. And
Mm.
some of when we're getting into like specifics, and I hope you don't mind, like with the Jewish diaspora, it dispersed around the world. And if you do see, a white passing Jew, that's because the Jewish community happened to settle in Europe and they became lighter, right? By
Hmm.
genetics and intermarriage. Uh,
Yep.
so yeah, I mean, so Mosaic Visions is something that it brings light to that and brings light to those communities and has those conversations. Um, uh, you know, I help to represent marginalized and underrepresented communities in the Jewish community and dispel the stereotypical, right, stigma that Jews look like this because it's not true.
Hmm.
Yeah.
No, I don't mind you sharing that. That's the education I'm talking about, the insight that needs to go against the assumptions. Because again, that is again why I'm gonna push just diversity and understanding there's a whole world outside of your worldview and perspective
Oh,
you may
yeah.
have. But you said we both agree, but there are people who even watching this or when they watch this will be like, wow, I I didn't know that.
Hmm.
Or if they do say they knew it, they're pretending. um, but I do want to ask you a little side note question about your
Okay.
experience at Virginia Tech in regards to your education. What you
Hmm.
end up graduating with? What are because we talk so much about socialization and
Yeah.
you adjusting and growing as a person, learning about different cultures. But what did you get your degree in?
Funny enough, I changed several times. I came in, you know how that goes, right? I
Yeah,
came in, I came in as, sorry, it's my dog. I
sorry.
came in as a jazz major. And
Jazz?
I did,
I
right?
didn't even know
Yeah,
that
for
was that
music.
a
For music,
jazz?
I
Oh, music.
volunteered at
Okay,
16, not volunteered. I auditioned at 16 and they were blown away that I was 16 and they're like, "Oh my god, you're 16 and you're coming in?" And I was accepted and I can't remember the jazz group that they have at
I
Tech.
definitely ain't gonna remember that because I
Yeah,
didn't know about it.
I can't remember. I want to Google it, but yeah, anyway, then I went to pre-law because they didn't have a law, program. It was pre-law and political science. And then I changed and ended with interdisciplinary studies, which was a new
Mhm.
major that combined different disciplines. So, and I'm thankful for that because it's exactly what I do now is that I look at an issue and I look at it from different points of views and break it down. So like,
Mhm.
we're talking about diversity and inclusion. I could look at it in my degree from a sociological standpoint, psychological, economic,
Mhm.
economic standpoint. And yeah, humanities and English was my two disciplines.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about what we're doing now.
Mhm.
Not this spotlight that we're highlighting your legacy, but let's talk about, your inclusion and diversity programs that you're doing with the DC alumni. Some of the
Yeah.
upcoming events and some of the things not to give away too much, but some of the things you have in store because when you and I talked a few weeks ago, I'm so excited. For one, I'm praying that eventually COVID will be contained where we can actually
Yeah.
have the social connectedness and we can get healthy again as a society, but also to connect with you in person with all the different things you have for the DC chapter. So talk about your role. What does that mean? Because people see a title and they say, "Oh, okay. What does that mean? That looks nice." What does that mean
Yeah.
for
The
you?
title.
Diversity and inclusion, diversity director, and also second part of that question is after you tell us what you do, what does that mean? What do you have coming up, and what do you have in store?
Okay. Yes. So we are one of the few chapters in the US that have a diversity and inclusion director, just to throw that out there. And I hope that
Hmm.
we increase that in our alumni chapters because I think it's super important, right, to have that. Um, it is an elected and voted position. And so the DC Hokie structure is like set up as we are a nonprofit. So it's a volunteer lay leadership position that only
Hmm.
lasts as much as I get voted in. So that's one thing. Um, what was the second one? The
What
second,
does that mean? So now when you
what is
get
it?
that position, as you've been voted in,
Yeah.
what do you do?
So I work with the rest of the board and suggest to them how to engage other communities other than Anglo-Saxon white alumni, right?
Hmm.
So, I've been in touch with like I said, this is how I found out that, first of all, there was no Office of Diversity and Inclusion when we went to tech, right?
No, it was
Yeah,
pretty much adjust.
right, exactly.
It was like
Yeah,
you find
so
your schedule and adjust.
no, so that's pretty awesome. And I know that President Sands put that together, and there's amazing faculty working on that, whom I'm also connected with, not faculty, but a director that work in that department to help ensure that, Virginia Tech is embracing all communities.
Mhm.
Um, Secondly, with the current events of what's going on, and you and I have spoken about it, um, it's very important for me, being multi-ethnic, multiracial, that we engage all of those communities and also spotlight um, Black-owned businesses, which is one of the things that I want to bring to the chapter, with showcasing them and
Definitely.
embracing them. And that's the thing that I know, first and foremost, is that if you support a community, they're going to support you back. And that's the
Yep.
only way that you're going to engage real, authentically, not
Hmm.
performatively. Because there's, people can say, yeah, I'm a diversity and inclusion officer. What is that? What does it mean? What are your actions saying? What are you actually doing in the community to actually engage them, right? Instead of just talking about it. So that's something that, I'm working with, and I hope that you'll be on this panel, for sure, right?
Yeah, well, that's the plan.
Yeah. And I've been connecting with the Native American Cultural Center that they have there now. The
That's
Indigenous.
what I'm saying. That is
I know
amazing.
it is amazing. And then they do online powwows. So they connect with local tribes in Virginia. And just by having this position, I'm also learning, right? Um, there's an upcoming, and I'm involved with that too. But there's a alumni, Asian alumni named Jacqueline. She is working very hard to start Asian Pacific Island Desi American Society, because I
Hmm.
think there's a Black Alumni Society. She's trying to do a PETA Alumni Society. That's the politically correct way to say that. So it's a mouthful, but I'm just going to use the acronym APETA.
I'm just listening to this stuff, man. This is just amazing to me because, again, I'm VA all day. I wasn't born in Virginia, but I was born in North Carolina, lived in Virginia all my life, went to college in Virginia. I live in Northern Virginia now, right outside of DC. And you mentioned Native Americans, and
Yeah.
I mean, I guarantee you, if you did a survey of the alumni from Virginia Tech, even if you just specified it to the Black alumni,
Hmm.
I don't think
Hmm.
many of us, if we did the survey, would guess that they are Native Americans really prevalent and active
Hmm.
with Virginia Tech and in Virginia. That's why, I know that's the theme, but that's why I think it's essential to have these conversations because it create awareness.
Yeah,
Um, you know,
absolutely.
I had a conversation you mentioned about the Washington football team. When I was growing up, most of my life, especially back then, because they were actually really good, I
Hmm.
was a Washington fan, and I had no idea that there were, people who found the name offensive. And then
Oh, right.
yeah, and then you start to realize again, but what came with that was awareness and
Hmm.
listening
Yeah.
and understanding that there are people that have been protesting that name and talking about it, and it made me understand. Okay, I get it now because it wasn't offensive to me, and
Right.
again,
And
yeah.
that's even for me, it wasn't on my radar. But then as you're doing this work and you start to realize, oh, right, because why would I care? I mean, because I don't, I'm not Native American that I know of, but you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's just being sensitive. It's being sensitive and not so, what is it, tunnel visioned on what our world is, right? Because like
Hmm.
you said earlier, there's a big world out here outside of our own individual worlds.
Oh
That,
yeah.
yeah, that's moving and going and um, happening all around us. And I know tech is really trying to increase admissions for Native Americans in the university, because what happens and what I've learned is that a lot of them are first generations, and they tend to stick close to their tribe. Um,
Mm,
and so I think the enrollment, from what I can remember, has increased at Tech, but with COVID and stuff, they're really trying to make more. I don't know how they're switching that and how their outreach, to get more Native Americans to apply to Tech. But yeah, this Native American Indigenous culture, I can't remember the the title of the center,
hmm
but yeah, I was blown away to even see that Virginia Tech had one, because we didn't have this not too long ago. It was what,
Yeah.
20 years ago? But yeah, they do like online stuff, and there's powwows that they have from different tribes. So like
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it, like I think in April they're going to do something like that.
So
So
that's just great to look forward to. Talk about some of your other events you have coming up. I saw you tag me in a post, and I shared it. It was
oh
something
yes.
the wine. So let's just a few events to be on the lookout for, and also how can people keep track of other events upcoming? As far as your Facebook or your Instagram or just a website. I don't know. This is your time
Oh
to
yeah.
share it. Yeah.
So thank you. So dchokies.org is the website for our chapter.
hmm
And I mean, if you want to connect in your alumni and you have a business that you want to talk about, right? Please feel free to hit me up. Dee Sanae, DeeSanae. Um, I'm on Instagram as well. Dwight, I know you got some alumni. I hope that you can pass my way.
Yes.
I want to grow this thing organically. I want to show support. I want to show love. I want to give people insight to the alumni, Black and brown and Asian alumni that are doing awesome things that don't really get covered post graduation. So, and I
I'm
like what
glad you said
you're doing
that.
with Vicktory Life, because you really, I know that you don't interview just alumni, but like
Mm-mm.
you're interviewing your whole network, and you're representing us and telling our stories. And I wanted you just a snippet of that. And hopefully post COVID, I'll see Black and brown and white alumni together doing things in the DC chapter, right?
Yeah. It's amazing how many people,
And supporting each
a
other, and
lot of us up
supporting,
here. Yeah.
yeah, and supporting each other, and breaking bread together. Yeah. So I know that some alumni tend to be very serious about their football games, but hopefully, if we have a football hosting party, that maybe like that's what I hope to see. That we can all, like, just hang out and network together. Your business connects with my business. Oh, we got to do something, right?
hmm
Irregardless of race, right? Or how we identify. Um,
Absolutely.
so those are the types of things. We have something coming up, um, which is a wine tasting, December 16th. I don't know when you're going to air this. Um, so Heat and State, two amazing alumni that are wine connoisseurs, and they do wine tastings. But the brilliant thing about them is that the wine that they're showcasing are from women-owned and Black-owned wineries. How cool is that?
Awesome. Are you
Yeah,
serious?
yeah.
I
It's
didn't know
December.
that when I saw the post. Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably post that and make it like real clear.
Yes. I think that needs to be real clear. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
So
And
I
that's
thought,
what I want to hear.
yeah, absolutely. And I'm just like, oh, I'm all about that. And so I liked that twist that they had. I asked them if that's something they were up to. They're like, oh, yeah, we already do it. So I'm like, yeah, let's do this. So December 16th, 6:30, it's Zoom. We are doing spring, depending on of COVID. Obviously, it's not going to be in person. I think it's going to be like at your own pace kind of thing. You know how they're doing
hmm
these hikes, and you and your family do it. Um, and we do job fairs as well. What I'm trying to do is also have job fairs that or mentorship set up that we can support African American students, and maybe just have it specifically for them, and have African American success at these professional development workshops, as well as for the Asian community, that too. Because sometimes it's not that it's insular, but in a predominantly white world, sometimes when you're going to corporate world, or you're having professional development, it's not coming from someone that looks like you, right?
Mm. Yep.
And so they may have a different standpoint if I'm talking to you versus someone that can't relate to your day in and day out, or your experiences as a person of color. You know what I mean, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the types of things that I'm working on for 2021 virtually. Um, and like I said, if you're an alumni and you want to participate and get showcased on our page, please feel free to reach out to me, Sanae at ncrhokies.org.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that information. And I mean, I know we talked, but I didn't know half that stuff you were talking about that was upcoming. So this is great for the viewers, also for the alumni. And it's great that you have this passion and purpose that you want to build and connect, because I know when I moved to Northern Virginia, after my career ended in football in 2001, I mean, whether I was in Fairfax County, Prince William, DC, Maryland, at the Metro Wizards games or whatever, it
Mm-hmm.
was like I ran into some Tech fans. And when tech,
Yes.
and when not just when I say Tech fans, I mean alumni, football fans, or even people who were just in the area as engineers or professionals or educators, principals. And I know when Tech would play at FedEx Field, they played there
Mm-hmm.
like 3 times against Boise State, Cincinnati, and other teams.
Have you been? Because I
I
was never
went.
brave enough to go.
Oh no, I went, and it was amazing because we took over the stadium, and you saw everybody. And that's when it hit me. Even when we played one year in Annapolis, Maryland, at the Military Bowl, the Tech alumni, and I mean, I'm including, the minorities, the Black and
Mm-hmm.
brown alumni, were deep. And that's when you realize, again, there were so many of us that continuously reside in the DMV. There's many of us here who reside in the DMV. So I'm sure between the two of us and your panel and your team, it's going to be a lot of fun and a lot of great things to look forward to.
Oh, and
Um,
I'm also doing stuff with Hillel, which is a Jewish organization that works with college students. So, to bring that back in there, I
yeah,
totally forgot. But yeah, just really shedding light on communities that are otherwise insular, but like bringing them out and saying, hey, we got you. We're supporting you. We want to hear from you.
no
Um,
doubt.
and going back to that, I know Tech, we have so much more than just football. I mean, you
Yes.
and I know that. But man, we football is special. I mean, we have like you and we talk all the time. There's PhD, right? There's people making big moves in our
Well,
professional,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to
engineer.
celebrate, and that's what I
Yeah.
want people to understand. We are so much more than Bruce Smith and Hoda from the Today Show.
Right, right.
We have so many people who are principals at.
But we love them.
Yeah, we
We
love
love
them.
them,
We love
but
them.
there's so
Yeah,
much more.
we have a lot of people, from entrepreneurship. You talk about Manny. Manny
Oh,
he wrote a book. He's an author. He's got
yeah.
another book coming out, and a
And he
potential.
had that gym, or I don't know if he
Yeah,
still has it
and
with
a
COVID.
potential deal with Netflix to cover his book, to do it.
Wow, I
I
had
mean,
no
so
idea.
that's just Manny. I mean, there's tons of us
Yeah,
out here. My good friend, my sister Natasha Bolden, is a principal in Montgomery County, changing lives.
I love it.
Yolanda Fitzgerald, also a Delta like Tasha, who represent the university extremely well. Yolanda, Latrice, I'm sorry, that's what I grew up calling
Mhm.
her. She's getting ready to get married soon, but she's also a Delta, and she's
Nice.
back at Virginia Tech helping out with the same cause that you are. So again, it's important to recognize them. It's
And
important to
Tracy, who had
yeah,
my position before me, she's with
yes.
Governor Northrum's office.
And I did the panel with her, and
Yeah,
Tracy is amazing.
yeah. So just but yeah, I mean, through what you're doing with Victory Life and what I want to do with the alumni, I just, I love that we have this overlap of trying to get other stories out. And, of course, football, hands down. I mean, football is special to everyone. Like you said, it aligns us all together.
Yeah. But you know what's great, because it's in the fall, the time of it, school's starting back
Mhm.
up, and then, that was a big part of the growth. But, now, with us being in ACC and the university growing tremendously, the wrestling program, track and field, they do great. The basketball team,
Oh,
they're
Ace
doing
is
great.
now the coach.
Ace was on the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight a few
Yes.
weeks ago, and so he's a special assistant, with Mike Young. So we are branching off and representing well in different capacities, but beyond the gridiron, beyond football. But
Mhm.
this has been a lot of fun. So this is a portion of my show where I'll allow my guests their final thoughts. We wrap up. I allow you to just
Mhm.
share. You provided insight into your culture, your religion, your faith, your passion, your purpose, your life experiences in Blacksburg. So
Mhm.
now, with all that being shared today, what are your final thoughts? And when I ask you that, what do you want to tell people that are going to see this, and even people that
Mhm.
are going down the same path as you, or people that want to, aspire to be successful and they're dealing with adversity, or they're trying to overcome differences, like you being multiracial?
Mhm.
Maybe they're going through a similar issue, or maybe they're trying to find themselves. You found yourself in Blacksburg and you've been moving ever since, making moves. What do you tell them? Based on all your life lessons that you have experienced, what do you want to share and tell those people, young ladies and young men even, what they should do,
Um,
and some words of wisdom?
Most certainly. If I could tell my younger self, the same thing, this is what I would say: be true to who you are. Never, um, lessen or have to hide who you are, right? And
Hmm.
also embrace other cultures as well, and reach out to people. If you're struggling, find them one. Because the best thing that I've been able to survive through all this is by meeting great people like you, right? Building community.
Hmm.
Find your tribe. Because if one set of people don't work and they don't accept you, there's somebody out there that will, and that has your same story and that can support you. And that's what I've found in life, right? Through professional life, personal life. Um, if you want to, diversity inclusion is so huge right now, and it's a long time coming. It's overdue, right? It's so
Uh-huh.
overdue to find your tribe. That's my best thing. Be true to who you are, embrace who you are, and don't ever settle for anything less than. Don't settle for anybody that can't embrace you.
Well said. And there you have it, man. That was great. Thank you. So, like I always say every episode, on behalf of Dee Sanae supporters and the supporters of Victory Life, we want to thank you for another great show. If you have a chance and you want to find more videos, check us out on Facebook at Victory Life. We're on IG at Victory Life. That's Victory Life with the K. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Victory Life, where we have great interviews with great guests like Dee Sanae, uh, president, director, I guess, of the Virginia Tech Diversity and Inclusion, the DC chapter. So once again, this has been another great episode of the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. And like I say every episode, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, make sure you leave a positive impact
Mm.
and a great legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you.